and this is part 4 of the ENDER 3 extruder upgrade series, final assembly and installation on the printer. Make sure you click subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of the next great project coming up. Unfortunately, due to the length of this video, I did have to split it into 2 separate parts. So this is part A, and stay tuned for part B in the next couple days. So assembly of the Greg's Weight extruder. We'll start by taking off the built-in support. That's this section here. You can just break that off. And on the underside here, there's a, you can see here, and then these 3 holes here have a sacrificial layer that you just kind of have to scrape off. So let's clear all that out. Make sure you remember to clear this hole here where the support was also. Okay, we need to put the push fit on, and this is, you have to hand cut your thread. So you set this guy in here, and I tend to use an Allen key or something to go through the hole and kind of keep it level. Then you have to just keep pushing down and threading it in until it starts. Once it starts a little, you can screw it in with a wrench or a pair of pliers. And we get that tight. Okay, let's see. So, and next thing is the bearings. Now, you absolutely can use the cheap bearings. These are the cheap bearings. You can see it's sealed, and if you give it a spin, I have a little piece of tape on here. If you give it a spin, they don't even spin completely around. Now, I've run these guys for like 6 months without any major issues. Grease does come out of these at some point, and you know, when the bearing goes dry, then it's going to start to fail and you're going to have to replace it. With these types of metal sealed bearings, you can't really re-grease them. So if you spring for the higher end bearings, which are like these have the removable wipes on them, and you can actually lubricate them. So this is one of those bearings, brand new bearing, straight out of the box, and if you spin it, you can hear it and you can see it spins for a long time. These things come dry and you actually have to lubricate them. So after you lubricate it, you can see when you spin it, it doesn't spin as long because the oil is actually in there, and you don't hear that, you know, metal on metal contact. So the easiest way to quickly lubricate these is take a thin razor blade or a hook or something, and you just kind of need to get in under this wipe and lift it out. So once you lift it out, you can put a drop or 2 of oil in there, and this is the lubricant I use. It is a synthetic sewing machine oil, and I'll have links for it in the description if you want. So you just kind of put a drop or 2 of this oil in here on the bearings and give it a quick spin around to kind of get the oil all around, and then you can put that wiper, squeezes it back on, then give it some a couple spins to to mix all that oil in. Now, once you lubricate the bearings, these are good to go. And if every once in a while you should pull them apart, add a little more oil to them, give them a couple spins, make sure, you know, they're not failing or they don't have any dirt or anything in them. So let me go ahead and lubricate the other two bearings, and we'll be right back. Alright, we're back. Let's put this bearing in. So the bearing it's just a press fit. You line it up and push it straight down. Make sure it is flush on the inside. Right here you can see. So right here is the shoulder. So just make sure that's flush in, and then on this side, same thing. The bearing just sits in, and if you compress it, it should be flush. Right here, there really shouldn't be a gap. Okay, so we need to put in the nut capture. So these things, you need to make sure that everything is calibrated correctly. If this hole is too small, it's going to split the print, so you really need to make sure that it's completely that your print is calibrated correctly, and that you do a couple dry run test fits before printing the whole piece. So I grab it with a pair of pliers, and you have these two flat spots which need to line up with the walls of the print, and you should be able to give it a push and line it up, and then it should push down in. And then you just look and make sure that it's all the way down, and you can see that all the threads there, so it's straight. Alright, so our next thing to do is we need to insert the bearing in the idler. And so this guy is really tight. There's a lip here, and that lip compresses and pinches the inner part of the bearing here. And then we have this piece of 5/16 threaded rod that kind of just keeps it from being pushed too far in. So you start by gently trying to get this in straight, and you have to just kind of work it back and forth until it sets in, and then you can insert the threaded rod. Make sure you don't put it in too much or you're not going to get it in. Alright, and then once it's in all the way, you can fully seat it. Yeah, we can see the bearing spins freely. Alright, next thing we need to do is put the main bolt on the main gear. So this should just insert, and you line it up. And again, this is another thing that you might want to do a quick test print of just the center piece here to make sure everything lines up and fits correctly. So once you line it up, it should just have to press it in, and we can see it's sitting flush on. It's sitting flush now. All right, and basically the assembly of this gear, we're going to use one washer, and that will give us a little offset. so it's not going to rub on the rest. We can insert that here, and then we can use a marker and mark the center line here. And that will give us the location of where we need to cut our hobbed gear. Cut the hobbed part out of the bolt, and we'll come back and finish assembly. Alright, so we have our hobbed bolt cut, and we can reassemble that. Now the hobbing's gonna catch a little, and you're gonna have to force it through and line everything up and make sure it's set. So one thing that really bugs me about this design is the way it was designed was for a 3mm bolt to go through here with a nut capture on the inside, and I tried to rework it so I could use the same number 6 that we're using for the tensioner here. But the issue is, if you insert it the way they have it set up like this, it's going to cause interference with the pulley, which sits right here. So there's a couple ways to remedy this. The easiest thing is to use like a number 4 by 1 inch either metal or wood pan head screw, and just come in from the back side, cut your own threads into the plastic, and about 1 inch is good. I mean, you can get away with a little shorter if you had to, but 1 inch will put you right about here on the end. If it's too short, then you're not going to have a pin on this side. You could also, if you had like 1/2 inch screws, you could come in from each side, and that's fine. You might just want to have this a little recessed, and you could do that by like heating up the screw a little and kind of pushing it in the plastic to recess it a little to make everything fit. But I really like just using this screw here. It makes it a lot easier. So we put the washer on, and basically at this point, besides the second washer and the nut, this is pretty much fully assembled. So I think this is a good place to stop with part A. As I said, unfortunately the video was a little longer than expected, so you can click on part B right here in this card and continue on.